everyone, I'm Robyn Zimmerman, and this is Talk of the Town. Gawronski has joined us once again. As you know, he's a certified financial planner with the Barnum Financial Group. And today we're going to be talking about disability insurance, which is an important topic, but I think an even more important topic to begin with is Memorial Day. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and you were just sharing with me, it just kind of has special meaning for you.
It does, and I hope you had a great weekend celebrating. But yeah, I was telling you how it's probably that holiday that changed the most for me throughout my life. I have a 10-year-old son, and when I was younger, I was like him. It's a day off from school, hot dogs and hamburgers, visit with the family, go swimming. And then I get older, and you start realizing Memorial Day is for people who passed away for the freedoms that we're experiencing now. But then you get a little bit older, and I started my friends started going off and serving, and I started meeting people, especially living here. I meet with a lot of veterans here, and they've lost friends. And when you spend time on Memorial Day with people who have lost friends, this weekend takes even on more of an importance to you. You really start to understand why we're celebrating the weekend. You know,
Good.
Yeah, and now we get to
let's
go to disability. I'd love to talk about that, but I guess we should talk about disability insurance.
I guess we should. And what I'm understanding is there's a lot of people don't have disability insurance. So why is it? Why?
Well, it has a lot to do with. Remember last interview we talked about mindset and education, and I think that has a lot to do with it. People just don't want to think about getting hurt. They don't think they're going to get hurt. They'd be willing to go out and buy a ticket where they might win $1 billion, which they're not going to, because in their minds that's great, but they don't want to insure against possibly getting hurt or getting sick.
Right, and from what I understand, 1 in 4 young adults will experience a disability that prevents them from working.
It's frightening, isn't it? That's 25%.
Yeah. So
when you look at the stats, which I don't want to get too much into stats in this interview because it puts people to sleep, but the amount of people that will need disability insurance is staggering. And in my 10 years as a planner, I can tell you that if somebody calls me looking for disability insurance, it's too late.
So, Luke, most disabilities are caused by what?
By illness, which is another, this is education. Most people will think, oh, I hurt my back, I got in an accident, I did this. That's only like, depending on where you look, around 10% of benefit payments are from actual injury. 90% are from illness.
Like chronic, cancer,
lupus, these diseases, ALS, like these diseases that can debilitate you, or if you want to seriously take care of them, you might be out of work for a year or two.
Okay. So, but what's the difference between, we're going to jump a little bit to from workman's comp, where you get injured on the job, and then Social Security disability insurance?
Okay, so workman's comp, you have to be hurt at work. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm covered, I have workman's comp. Well, we just talked about how most disability premium payments are because of illness.
Yeah, right.
That's not going to be covered under that. You have to physically be hurt at work. And then the one through the government, everyone knows that one, but it's so hard to prove. Like, once you are disabled, it takes a long time to start getting those payments from the government, unless only about 1/3 of people actually will ever get those benefits. Right. So if that's your plan to cover an illness or an injury, it's not a very good one.
Not a good plan.
Right.
So how do you get disability insurance? I think you get it from your company that you're working for, maybe?
Yes, most people are familiar when you're doing your benefits, you get this thing called long-term disability, short-term disability, and it has a number like 50%, 55, 60%.
Of your pay.
Of your pay. Most don't cover bonuses. If you're at a job that has a high bonus, that's probably not going to be included. But keep in mind that the company's paying that for you, which means that when you go to collect that, let's say you're making $100,000 and you get 50% of disability, you're then going to be taxed on that because you didn't pay any money into it. So now take your taxes out of that $50,000, and you're really going to be careful because it's not going to be enough to cover. So you really should go out and get your own individual policy.
So what's your advice about that?
Should absolutely.
You get your own plan?
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. We get insurance to drive a car in case we get in an accident.
Right.
We get insurance on a house in case something happens to our house, because that would be devastating if we lost. People will get insurance on a trip in case the trip gets canceled.
True, that's true.
But they never think about how important of an asset they are themselves. Like, yes, our house is, for most people, their biggest asset, unless they look at themselves as an asset, which they should. I mean, if you're making $100,000, $200,000 or more a year,
and you can't work,
for a year or two, what's your life going to be like? What's going to happen to your children or your spouse if you're out of work for 6 months, a year, or 2 years?
What's the difference between short and long term?
Just the time in which you're hurt. So it's a time. And even with long term, they'll have periods that you say you're okay to last. So you might not get it for 90 days, 180 days, up to a year. It will keep your premiums down.
Very good. Again, Luke, you always give us good advice great tips. And if we have any more questions, we can always get in touch with you, right?
Yes, always. Disability insurance is very confusing and very hard to deal with. And there's a lot of things called riders on them. Everyone's familiar with riders from your other insurances. There's so many different types of riders for disability insurance. Absolutely reach out to a professional like myself and get some help making sure it fits you.
Very good. It's good to see you.
Good
And
to see you again.
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day.
Lowcountry with the Barnum Financial Group.